Hello, I'm Kyle Stallones. We're here at the Tomball Museum Center in the Oil Camp House. It's May 1, 2023, and we're here for a second interview with Wheeler Coe, Jr. Thanks for joining us again, Wheeler.
You're welcome, Kyle. Appreciate you calling me.
We wanted to cover a few things that we skipped over last time. I missed part of my checklist, so we're here to talk about it. So what I want to start with, tell us about your family.
My immediate family?
Yeah.
After me and Jake went in business, we'd been in business a couple of years. I decided I had enough money I could get married. That's probably a mistake, but we did it anyway, you know. And Mr. J.L. Todd, I bought a little house from him. $11,000, 75-foot lot, 2-bedroom, 2-car garage, right here in town. And he financed it, $500 down, $100 a month. And asked this girl to marry me, and she took me up on it. That was in 1965. And then subsequently we had 2 children, which are now grown. They live in Austin, both of them.
What was your wife's name?
Her name?
Yeah.
Her name was Sandra Rippey, R-I-P-P-Y. She was from a little town of Dripping Springs.
What's your kids' names?
Well, the boy is the third. Wheeler Coe is the third, and the daughter's name was Kelly Litzow, now at presently. Married name.
You have grandkids? Yep.
My daughter has 3 boys, and my son has 1 daughter.
Great. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about was I heard that you were on city council for a while back then. Is that right?
Yeah, I was on the council 2 terms and mayor 1. I was actually mayor before I was on the council. We had a little office there in Tomball, and I wasn't but half a block from the city hall where it is presently. So it was convenient. And Mr. A.J. Sledge, he had been mayor for many terms, and he just wore out, tired of it. Was going to step down, and a bunch of guys that hung around our office, we had a little investment group. I'd started a little group called Tomball Land Investment, and had about 8 or 10 different members. Some of your kinfolk were on one, Jake and Leighton Stallones, and A.R. Bruce, J.L. Todd, Frank Braddigan, on to 5 and Dime, Ori Pitchford, 10 of us. I think Doug Linney's in there, and Alfred Braddigan perhaps. But anyway, we didn't have no money, so we all just started a little club, and we'd have meetings prior to the election was coming up. Mr. Bruce says, you ought to run for city council. And I said, well, Mr. Bruce, if I was going to run something, I'd run for mayor. You got more say. And they talked me into it. I did. And I'm down for you can get elected. Yeah. You know, didn't have any idea to get elected, but I did.
How long were you mayor?
I served 1 term. That job, at that time, you ran it. You signed every check. You did the hiring and also the personnel, and it just run the whole little town. I mean, it wasn't very big. We didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know. 4 little girls, one of the girls, she was still doing the tax roll by hand. It'd take her most of the year to do it, you know. And the other lady, she'd be paying the bills and so forth, and then you didn't have a real big crew. You had a boy that acted like the main ramrod, and had a fellow over the water area. But anyway, I'd go to work, and I'd go over there to start with, and spend about a half a day there. Took so much of my time away from my work, my income was off considerably, about $10,000 a year, and that was a lot of money. 65, 68, going in there. So I said, well, I'm gonna let y'all have this job, and I'm gonna run for the city council after a while. So that's what we did.
Yeah. So 1 term was 2 years?
1 term was 2 years in the mayor, and in the city council. I was on the city council 2 terms, mayor 1.
Yeah.
That was in 1968, spring of 68, on the mayor's job. And the council position was in the early 70s. Well, the mayor's job paid $50 a month and $10 a meeting. No expense account, no insurance, no nothing, you know. We really didn't have any money to speak of.
Pretty basic back then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I found this in one of the Tomball books. It looked like it shows your term there for mayor.
Yeah. 68 to 70, that's correct.
Is that, who are these guys there?
That was Doug Looney there, and this was old man N.B. Anderson.
Do you remember any of the issues y'all struggled with back then? Mayor, city council?
Oh, we automated the tax roll and expanded the sewer department. Laid some mains around from the east side of town all the way over to the old sewer plant, which is over by the dump, which is no longer there. You know.
Was that over on Huffsmith?
Yeah, yeah. And at that time, we were Garvin Upchurch. He was picking up the garbage in an old flatbed truck, old bobtail truck, and hauling it out to the dump out there by the Lutheran Cemetery. Well, you know, that wasn't really good. Kind of smelly situation. And the state come up with new rules about the solid waste that you had to cover it every day with dirt. So then we had to go buy a piece of equipment, and had to buy something used because we couldn't afford new stuff. Bought a 955 excavator, and we went to burying this stuff out there, and then that dump getting pretty full. Piece of land over here on Huffsmith, off of Huffsmith, that I think Howard Klein owned it at the time. Used to be a Shell oil company camp out there. And on the north side of Huffsmith, they sold the land, Howard bought it, and on the south side, Lowell Cox bought what they had on the south side of the road. Later built his home there. Well, the city, we bought the land from Howard. I believe we paid $1,200 an acre for it. That's a good while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And used it for dump for several years. In fact, it's a real pretty piece of land now. It's got, you know, it's got big mounds, and it's just all grassed over. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And we moved to City Hall at that time from the north end of the fire department there at the corner of Walnut and Oak Street, I believe it is. No, not Oak. It's not Oak. Walnut and Market. That's where they were officing when I was elected. The city hall consisted of one room with about 3 desks, a few chairs, and that was it. We moved down to the new building, and we've kind of upgraded there. We had a nice meeting room. The girls had plenty of place to work, so it was a lot better situation.
And where was the building y'all moved to?
401 Market, right on the corner there.
Oh, okay. Remember any other issues y'all handled back then for the city?
Oh, we instituted that 1% sales tax. I think I was on the city council at that time. And of course they come up wanting to move the hospital, and did so. But that was a little later. I was on the city commissioners at that time. Not the mayor. That was in the early 70s.
That's when they started the new hospital where it is
Yeah.
now?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
What happened to the old hospital? Did they sell it off? Or what?
They sold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that owned by the city or by the doctors? Or?
No, I think the two doctors had purchased that.
Okay.
Dr. Graham and Dr. Warren.
Oh.
Had practiced together for several years. And then Dr. Warren, he became a psychiatrist. He quit the general practitioners, went back to school and became a psychiatrist.
All right. So I remember when I was coming here right out of college, you were driving a pretty cool car, a Corvette. Did you have a Vet for a while? Did I remember that right?
Dr. Graham was?
No, did you have a Corvette?
Yeah, I had a Corvette, but it was old. It was a 77 model.
Yeah. Seemed like I remember it's kind of white, but it had maybe another.
White. Yeah, nice old ride. I enjoyed that car.
It was a nice looking car. And before
I
that,
had an XKE Jaguar when I was a kid.
that's what I was going to ask you about. So, what year was that?
That was a 64 Jag. That was in 65.
Wow.
64, 65.
Yeah.
And your cousin, Leighton Stallings, he had one too. He had a hardtop. I had a convertible. I got a picture of Leighton's car in my office. Boy, those things they'd run. They were fast.
Had a straight.
Not as fast as your car would.
The straight six.
Inline six,
Yeah.
long as from here to that wall.
Almost like an aircraft motor, wasn't it? Isn't that thing?
Yeah, it had dual overhead cams and it was inline six. It's a big engine.
Yeah. Well,
Get great fuel economy, but it leaked oil like a sieve.
it'd be fun to have that now, wouldn't it?
That car's worth a lot of money now, Sal. I've had a lot of sports cars that have been worth a lot of money.
Yeah. If we only knew to hang on to them, right?
Yeah, isn't that true?
Yeah.
Man, I think I had a TR6, a TR4A, and a 59 MGA, and a 63 Mark II Austin Healey. That was a nice car.
Sounds good. Yeah.
And you know, all those cars, you never lost no money if you bought one. I mean, they kept going up in value. You drive it a while and have fun. And sell it. In fact, I had a TR6. I sold it when my son went off to college because he wanted to drive it.
Yeah.
And I could just see this. He'd kill himself in that thing.
Yeah.
So we got rid of that. But I did let him take that Corvette to school. He said he got tired of it. Wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
All his friends.
Yeah.
So we got him a better car, and he promptly wrecked that.
So I wanted to back up a little bit. You were telling us about quite a bit about Decker's Prairie, and
Yeah.
I was reading about that and Pinehurst, and I found this Texas State Historical Association, and it said that in 1860 is roughly when it started out there in Pinehurst, and they called it Prairie Home. Did you ever hear it called Prairie Home?
No, I did not. I don't remember that.
And then in 1871, the name was changed to Hunter's Retreat. You ever hear of that?
Oh, yeah.
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 And then later became Pinehurst around 1904. I'd never heard that
Yeah,
history.
Mr. W.C. Bradicum, he owned the whole town of Pinehurst.
Did
In fact, he sold it. He sold it as a town years ago. It was funny because he had the post office, the feed store, and the grocery store, and the service station. That was it.
Was that the dad of Frank or Walter, or was it W.C. Bradicum?
They were brothers.
Brothers?
They were kin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think W.C. and George I believe George Frank. Yeah, Bradicum was. Brother was Christoph. W.C. Christoph Bradicum was his name.
All right.
Good merchant.
And then I found this on one of the Tomball books. It talked about the Decker Cemetery. You
Yes.
have some of your family there, the Deckers.
Decker Prairie Cemetery?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's full of Coes and Deckers. Great Grandpa Decker actually had a little daughter that died at childbirth, and he went out west of the house there on that hill and fenced in a half acre, made a little burial plot out of it, and then they got to burying other people around in there, and they just enlarged it later. It's a 503 nonprofit organization.
So if you go out there today, whereabouts is it if you go west on that Decker Prairie Road?
If you turn left on Decker Prairie Road, it is about 0.6 of a mile on your right. You'll see a little sign that says Cemetery Road or Decker Prairie. It's got a gate up there.
And last time we met, you were telling us about the Laird's grocery store I found that picture in one of the Tomball books. Does that look like a...
That's it, bud.
That's it?
That's it.
Looks like later on somebody had a sandwich shop or something at a little restaurant.
Yeah, there was a man out of Houston, a retired fireman. He opened it up and he called it the firehouse. When I was a kid, that was a service station under that over that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where they had the gas pumps out there?
And it had those old pumps, just like you got out here, where you pump the gas up there and it gravity flowed in the vehicle.
All right.
Gas about 6 a gallon, something like that. Yeah, that was a local store. Had a meat market in it, dry goods, canned goods.
I'll hold that up. You hold that up for the camera. We'll get Bob to get a shot of that.
Right here.
Yeah. All right. Another photo we found. You were telling me about the Schweinley sawmill up there. It looks like a picture of one of their out there working on one of their logs, huh?
Boy, that was a big log, wasn't it?
It was. I was amazed how it must have been a really old growth tree, huh?
That had to be an old tree. But you know, there was when I was a kid, Mr. Frank Bredicum, he had a stand of virgin pine timber out there on Walnut Creek. The trees were big, and under virgin timber, and no light gets to the ground, so there's no undergrowth. You just walk through that forest. It was beautiful.
So remind me where Walnut Creek is. I don't remember.
Okay, if you were going, if you went out Rose Hill and you turn right, like you're going to come back into Deckers Prairie, on that Decker Prairie Rose Hill Road, you'll cross that Walnut Creek Bridge about halfway back into Deckers Prairie.
All right. Does that go into Spring Creek?
It goes right on into Spring Creek.
Okay.
Tees right into it about where Cobb's Road is.
Okay.
On the Harris County side.
Mm-hmm. And the other photo there, it showed a community center up there at Deckers Prairie.
Yep,
Is
that's
that
the community
still
center. Now, this building is not. This building was used as schoolhouse, but there is another schoolhouse that was preceded this, and I've got a copy of it at my office. I'd have brought it to you.
Mm-hmm. You can hold that up for the camera if you don't mind.
Yeah, that was Decker Prairie Schoolhouse.
So
grades through 10 grade. I went to 10th grade there, I think. That was it back then.
Did you ever go there? Did your parents?
No, I didn't go there. The present highway used to be called Old Houston Road, and it was actually west of the current alignment of the highway. But it was just off of Old Houston Road and Decker Prairie Road.
All right.
You know, a long, long time ago, a lot of those roads weren't even named. Those old rural roads. You just had to know where you was going.
Yeah.
You know?
They say if you want directions, say, well, you go to such and such place and you turn
Yeah,
left
you turn
and go
left
to somebody
there.
else's.
You turn left there at that dipping vat, and you know you go on down.
Yeah.
Or turn left at Otis Laird's store. And if you went to the right of Otis Laird's store, you'd end up over at Hardin Store Road.
Yeah.
Which is over on Huss Smith Conroe Road.
We had Butch Tice telling us about the dipping vats. What do you remember about them around here?
I tell you, they've had those everywhere. We had one there at the corner of Peden Road and Decker Prairie Rose Hill Road. And my office used to be at the corner of Main Street and 149 on the northwest corner. I sold that land and they were developing that for a service station. And they dug into an old pit there. It's at the corner of Tomball Waller Road and our main street.
Yeah.
In the old Houston Road. And that was in 1989 when they were digging that up. And you could smell that dip just like it was yesterday.
So
that was strong stuff.
It was a concrete dipping vat that they dug in?
Had a concrete dipping vat, and the cows jump off in there, and if their howers were too wide, they'd just take a poleaxe, knock their horns off, and they'd fall on down in the vat and swim out. You know. But,
do you know what kind of chemical that was they treated them with?
forget what they called it. But it was pungent.
Yeah.
Now it would be carcinogenic, I'm sure. You know.
Yeah. I guess they're getting rid of ticks back
It
then.
had, you know, almost smelled like tar. You know, it had a lot of oil base in there, and petroleum, I suppose. Kill those ticks.
So I was flipping through.
Had a characteristic smell to it. You'd never forget it if you ever smelled it.
I was flipping through one of those Tomball books, and it talked about the Davis, Texas hotel, and then it showed a picture of it, and then it talked about maybe in '72. Did you ever go in the hotel business?
Yeah, I bought that old hotel from the bank. It was defunct. It had been called Smith Hotel at that time. It had been built by Mr. Bristow. He had a hotel there, and he had moved the old hotel back and built a brick hotel there. In fact, that's one of the strongest buildings in Tomball. It's got a steel girder through the middle of it, and the walls are 13-inch thick, what they call a commercial brick wall.
Is that where the Peck Hotel became?
Yeah, I renamed it Peck Hotel when I bought it.
So that's that white, is it 2-story, or I don't remember how many stories it had. How many stories?
It's 2 stories.
Yeah.
It only had 13 rooms in there.
Yeah. Did you run it as a hotel for a while?
I did for a while. I actually made a little money, and then I'd had it a couple of years, and I sold the restaurant equipment to a man named Harding. He gave it a restaurant in there, and he was quite a chef, but he was temperamental as hell. Somebody'd order a hamburger, he'd make him mad. He'd walk out in a place full of people. But he was a good chef.
Yeah. So did you hear any stories when your mom or dad or your grandparents were going to school up there in Deckers Prairie area? You hear any stories from back then?
I don't remember them. There's so many stories. Some remember some. You know, it's like an old country schoolhouse, you know.
Yeah.
I guess it's several different grades in one room.
Yeah.
And talk about some of them kids smart, and some of them just dumb as hell. Oh, they were funny.
Yeah, they had everybody in one place.
Yeah.
Mr. Coe, we appreciate you coming in. Is there anything else you wanted to share about your family or about growing up here in Tomball?
I don't know what it is, Kyle. I appreciate you having me on.
Great. Well, thanks for your time.